Hello and welcome everybody to our just chatting portion of the show, which is also going to start off with our Better Call Saul season 6 episode 12 review. Um if you're watching this on YouTube, you might notice this is a bit of a new format. I am doing this live on Twitch and kind of just using the live portion to be able to just switch through scenes here. Um, let's get right into it. So the episode opened with Saul on the phone with Francesca, and he's bouncing a ball, and you can tell he's kind of stalling. And I'm not gonna do like the full recap on this one. I'm just gonna kind of like go into it. Spoilers, by the way. There's a spoiler in the title here. There's gonna be a spoiler warning in the YouTube video. We are going full spoilers. So if you don't want to hear anything or if you're not caught up yourself, click off of this video, come back when you have watched it. So what we're watching in the beginning is Saul putting off his divorce proceedings. He's making Kim wait outside with the rest of all his shitty clients. And this is going to play out jumping around here in a this is probably the least likable Saul or Jimmy or Gene, whatever the fuck you want to call him, is um in any of the episodes, culminating with this moment right here, and we will get to it. But I do want to kind of go a bit in order. I have some notes. I got some notes here that I took down, and I just want to try to go through all of it. Um, so his legal name is still James Morgan McGill. I don't know if it's been. I tried to like pick up on little details. I wrote that down because I saw his middle name was Morgan. I don't know if we've ever seen that before or if it has any significance whatsoever. But I wrote it down. Um, I did like that whenever he was bouncing the ball, there it was like the column fell over, and it's like a cheap knockoff. You can see how flimsy it is whenever that happens, and it's funny because it's supposed to be like the columns of justice with the Constitution or whatever written on the back, but I think that was very symbolic what happened there. Uh, Good representation for Saul Goodman as a character. So, yeah, Saul says, "What are you waiting for?" Let her in, and then we cut to Kim Wexler. She is chopping potatoes, and she has a bit of a new look, as you can see. She's a brunette now, and she has a bit of a new life as well. She, we see her marriage. She's married to someone new. She went the complete opposite direction from Jimmy or Saul. This dude is about as boring as it gets. The most remarkable thing he has to say throughout the entire day is uh something about Miracle Whip or mayonnaise. Is like, oh, it's who gives a fuck. Anyway, I think that's what that was the point of that scene is, um, you know, she's settled into this mundane life that has no excitement as a result of everything that happened like a couple episodes ago. I think she's like overcorrecting, um and maybe she's happy or whatever, but I don't know. I don't think she is. I think she's just settling into that life because of how crazy things ended up getting. um what else? Yeah, she's a suburban housewife. There's this barbecue scene, the Pina Colada song, and then there's two notable songs throughout this episode. There's that while you're just seeing this like suburban nightmare of a barbecue gathering or whatever. Um, what is it? It's like, oh, they're talking about like a new Outback opening up. Anyway, let's move on. She's working at a sprinkler sales center, and that, like the rest of her life, especially in comparison to her previous life as an attorney, is kind of boring. And here she receives a call from Saul, or Gene, and we finally hear the other side of the conversation that happened last week. And basically, it's not what I imagine most people suspected, which would be her just yelling at him and freaking out that he's even trying to call. No, she actually just pretty calmly tells him that he should turn himself in, and just lets him know that she's happy he's alive, but yeah, that's about it. And now his reaction is kind of is on point for that, even though you might presuppose that there was a heated argument going back and forth, but it was all Jimmy. And he does not come off any more likable here than he did earlier, and that than he will later on. He kind of just gets more despicable as this episode goes on. So she heads as a result over to Albuquerque. She takes a bus, and we see her in the courthouse. And we're not sure what she's doing there, but it all becomes clear in the next scene when she goes and pays Howard's wife Cheryl a visit. And this awkward doesn't even, this is hard to watch, because she hands her a full confession, telling her everything that happened. Uh, Oh God, yeah. And you kind of see Cheryl's process go through it, where well, you're gonna go to prison, this, and that. It's like, oh, they might not prosecute because there's no, like, all the evidence is kind of hearsay. There's nothing solid, nothing linking to it, and they'll probably never find Howard's body. So they may not even choose to prosecute a case like that. And even though Kim could get taken to civil court, it would only end up ruining Kim because Saul is still at large, who's, I'm pretty sure he's the only person who, is guilty at this point who isn't dead. Um, so what else? Did anything else? There was a beautiful shot of a gate opening in the beginning of this portion, and I'm also gonna rewind back to another thing. That I don't know. It was almost like ceremonious. It was almost like she was entering, and it was just Howard's house, but it was like a place of judgment for her. That's how I took it anyway. Um, and earlier I want to talk about when she's in the courthouse, she sees another attorney, like, doing what she used to do, prepping a plaintiff or whatever, and making him presentable for a judge, coaching him on how to act when he's in the courtroom. And it's very reminiscent of the scenes we saw while Kim was doing, her pro bono work. So, it was almost like deja vu isn't the right word, but it's almost like Kim had a moment of deja vu right there, seeing her, because even though she wasn't seeing herself, she was seeing something that she would have been doing all those years ago. Okay, so we got through all that, and she delivers the full written confession. We see some names in the confession. We see Mike, Gus, names that you wouldn't want to contend with normally, but you realize the timeline we're in, they're all dead, so it just doesn't matter. It's like, well, shit. So she takes a bus ride back home, and this is the first time we get a call to the what's it called? The title, sorry. The title of the episode, which is Waterworks, because she just starts breaking down crying. Um and I thought that was it right there, but later on we get another scene which we will get to, but we have some other stuff to go through. I'm going to keep it on this here even though this isn't relevant just yet. It's got Gene in it, and we have to talk about Gene for a little bit. He was in the last episode just in the process of breaking into somebody's home, and it wasn't as clean as it normally would have been with the scam he was pulling because the duct tape was already pulled off the hinge, so he had to break in, by breaking glass. So that's already a bad look. He is basically, picking right up from where the last episode left off, just making sure the guy is asleep, and he does this. He plays like a key on the piano, and he was like, "All right, that's good enough." And basically from the beginning, and I just want to make a comment on the music in this scene, especially going forward, like when he's getting all the passwords and stuff, is just excellent. But he is not doing a great job, and he's getting very, very greedy. Um, it's almost as if he wants to get caught at this point because, whew, he gets the accounts and the passwords, but that's not enough. He has to go and find the room where all the nice watches are, and he pours himself a glass of the nice whiskey. It's like, it really is like L behavior, because like you need to be getting the fuck out of there. Not that I want him to get away with this, because as we see, he um up until this point, with like the exception of maybe getting in the boxing room with Howard, but that didn't work out for him. Jimmy has gotten away with not being like a violent criminal. Not to say he hasn't done despicable things that could be considered just as bad, but he just hasn't crossed that threshold where like you're like, oh well, that's just clearly fucked. I mean, he has, but in a violent manner. Until this episode, you saw him considering it. He was about to bash this dude with a vase, and considering he was drugged and all that, that could potentially lead to a situation where he like chokes on his own vomit or something like that, where he could easily die. Um, that's the first time we see Jimmy behaving like we see in this image here, where I was very nervous. He ultimately never crosses that threshold, but he toes the line, and he comes off as such a creep in this episode. Even when we cut back to him as Saul. But let's get through this part. He uh he tries to take this dude for all he's worth. Jeff pulls up, and shortly thereafter the police pull up right behind him. And yeah, this was a rough one. Jeff, I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't quite expecting him. I don't know if he skid on ice, or if he was just so nervous that he crashed into a fucking parked car. But yeah, that was a rough look for Jeff. And he ultimately gets arrested. And I like how Gene tells him that he's gonna get him the best legal representation in the world, or whatever he says. I think I have it written down here. Um, oh, the best legal defense in the world. Yeah. Um, I also like the scene with the two cops. It was oddly Tarantino esque, with just like the dialogue where something's heavy happening in the background, but they're having some innocuous conversation about fucking fish tacos, you know. But I do like how like they just switched up as soon as that was probably in an episode where there wasn't a lot to laugh at, not a lot of comedy. That moment when Jeff crashed the car did I did laugh out loud. Um, okay. Oh yeah, I forgot. The man wakes up at one point and blocks this narrow passageway as Jimmy's trying to get out, but eventually he falls back asleep and Jimmy gets out. And he hops on a bus himself, reminiscent to Kim hopping on that bus. But while Kim is coming to the realization of her past actions, Saul, Jimmy, Gene continues to run away from them. And he is just hopping on the bus to get to his car so that he can go back home, get to his burner phone, and coach Jeff on what to do. And let's talk about this scene really quickly. We cut um to the that same day from the beginning of the episode, the divorce proceedings. Uh oh, come on, focus in. There we go. Okay, so we cut to the divorce proceeding, uh, and yeah, Saul is as unlikable as he ever has been. You know, acting very much like pushing his feelings to the side and acting very much like he did with Chuck, um, in relation to his loss of Kim. He's acting like it doesn't never mattered to him, like he's making fun of her. He tells her, very nonchalantly to have a nice life, Kim. And yeah, it doesn't, nothing in this episode, as affable as Jimmy McGill has made himself out to be throughout this entire series, this episode really exposes him as kind of like, you know, the piece of shit that he really is under it all. Not that there isn't stuff to like about him, but Jesus, he deserves, you know, in this story, he deserves what's coming to him, and I do believe that's what's going to happen in the next episode. I also did appreciate the Emilio cameo, where apparently he doesn't do paperwork. That made me laugh. And speaking of cameos, it wasn't just last episode. We got Aaron Paul, we got Jesse Pinkman in this episode as well. And this was a fantastic scene. Two episodes you never would have thought would have ever met each other. And and Jesse is basically asking Kim her opinion on Saul. Um, because he's got this goofy commercial and he's saying, you wouldn't go to a surgeon with a commercial like that. And Kim basically tells him, well, when I knew him, he was good. So like I didn't really touch on Kim turning the full confession over in the courthouse as well. That's kind of a big deal. It's kind of like probably the biggest thing that happened this episode. Um, I probably should have touched on that before I talked about the bus scene. Um, but yeah, she covered for Jimmy once again, even here. Despite all the bullshit he had just put her through. Um, you know, she cared for Jimmy that much, or Saul, or whatever the fuck. And this would be the second call to the episode title of Waterworks because it is pouring rain, and it is just like pouring like a motherfucker right over them. And they're having this conversation. Jesse bums a smoke off of Kim, and he's asking her all this stuff. And it was a really nice like monologue that Jesse does for a little minute there, where he talks about the commercial. And all this talk of the commercial does have relevance later. Um, we will get to it. We'll get to it. Um, so let's go back to this picture because we have to talk about this. Um, Jeff has gotten caught by the police at this point, and and he's following along with what Gene's saying to a point. I think he's gonna crack. I think it's pretty clear that he's gonna crack, but at least to the point we've seen, he's following along, and Gene has to go pick up Marion, who Carol Burnett's character that we see here in this picture, because he can't very well walk into a police station and post bail himself. But when he does this, he speaks with her over the phone, and he sets her off with this. He mentions Albuquerque and how it's not done there in Albuquerque, and she's like, obviously, why the fuck would you say that? and she thinks of Jeff's past, and yeah, she puts everything together pretty much. She or she starts to, because when Jean pulls up, she is watching something on the laptop, and it's not revealed what it is. And I think he lets himself in, and he's like trying to convince her to go to the police station to go pick up Jeff. He's thinking he's gonna get away with it. There's a nice scene beforehand where he's listening to "I'm Not That Kind of Girl Who's Gonna Give Up Just Like That," and he's singing along to it. He really believes he's gonna get away with this bullshit. Um, but I don't think that's the way it's gonna shake out, because in the ensuing scene, he uh he basically can sense that she's suspicious because she starts asking questions of him, and he opens up her laptop because she closed it in kind of a precarious manner where it was still kind of like half open, like she was trying to hide what was on there. And in color, reflected in Jean's glasses, we can see a Saul Goodman commercial. And it kind of ties back to what Jesse was talking about with the commercial, and this being the thing that she's able to name him who he is as a wanted person by the police. And that's exactly what she does, but not before this scene pictured here, where Jean had pulled out the phone line whenever she was trying to call the cops, and the way he's holding it, kind of like a garrote, um you think that he's just gonna do something awful here. Ultimately, he does not, but I think it's pretty clear that he for sure considered it at the very least, and ultimately decides to leave. He gets out of there. He's on the run, and I think that's what this final episode coming up is gonna it's just gonna wrap things up for that storyline, and I think he will get caught or he will die, one of the two. Um, I just don't see him getting away with it at this point. And I do want to touch on one thing. I think this episode was excellent. 9.75 to a 10 from me. Like, I was thoroughly, like, I've been talking about this for almost a half hour now. It was so good. I think there is going to be a portion of the fan base, because before I recorded this, I didn't want to look too much of people's thoughts. I like to come in fresh, but I do think that some people are gonna hate Kim after this episode, and I think what Kim did was totally earned and the right thing to do, and I don't hate Kim for what she did here. Um, in fact, I kind of commend her for doing it, because Jean was a fucking idiot to have called her and then ask her, well, what do you think you're gonna do? You're gonna turn yourself in? You're gonna ruin both our lives? Like, her life is already ruined because of you. I mean, not to say that she didn't have any guilt in it herself. She certainly did, but like, to say Jimmy, Saul, Gene doesn't have any guilt there is insane. So, yeah, I don't blame her at all, and I hope the fan base doesn't either. I hope this doesn't turn into like a Skylar White moment, because I think she was totally justified in that decision. Um, I think that's it. I think that's it for this episode. A 9.75 to a 10 out of 10. Excellent, excellent writing, excellent tension, excellent acting, um, excellent camera work and cinematography, excellent music. I know I hardly ever have anything bad to say about Better Call Saul, but it's because, relatively speaking, it's just one of the best shows on TV right now. Um, Easily in the top 3 of anything out right now. Um, just for the quality that gets put out. I'm sure I'm gonna have some more divisive reviews. My next review because we only have one more episode of this, so I might as well announce it now. Is I am halfway through watching, and I'm gonna complete before I review it the new Netflix Sandman series because I'm a big fan of the comics, and um, there's things I like. There's things I do like, but it's just particularly like an episode I like, which is the problem. Anyway, not this video. Look forward to that on the YouTube channel, possibly here on Twitch where I might have a discussion about it. And thank you so much for watching. This was the Better Call Saul portion. We are gonna play some games now. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Follow me here on Twitch. I am going to be right back. And goodbye, YouTube.